today I'm going to show you my final project at Cinema Makeup School, and this was a special effects creature. I have entitled it a sea monkey because I was going for something that was aquatic and has some kind of monkey-esque features as well. Definitely had a lot of fun doing this. It was an intensive kind of process. It took about 4 weeks, a month, you know, to complete this entire project, and I just want to show you guys and walk you through the process. As I said, this was pretty intensive, and we started off by picking partners, and I had the lovely Amanda. She was awesome to work with, and you know, basically she gave me her life cast and I began to sculpt my creature. There was a lot of reference material that I had to gather and a lot of things that I had to look at, and you know, a lot of drawings, a lot of late nights, biting my fingernails, worrying about what this was going to look like. And as you can see, it started off very rough. The forms were very rough, and a lot of times in sculpting this is what happens. You will look at your sculpture and just be devastated because it looks kind of like not how you want it to. But you know, the final couple hours of sculpting, it kind of comes together and you have just this moment of sheer joy and happiness that it wasn't going to look like crap like you thought. So that's kind of what I went through with this process, and you can see I did a lot of wavy lines kind of to mimic water and like organic kind of flowy lines around the eyes. And I also sculpted ears independently, which was something that I felt necessary because if I added them to the actual sculpture it would be really hard to mold. So I molded those separately, and I wanted to create a really kind of a monkey type shape of ear but make it aquatic to make it look almost like gills or fins or something, and you know, to kind of help it flow through the water. Funny enough, I had to float part of my sculpture off the mold, so I ended up immersing my whole sculpture in water, which was very nerve-wracking. But the point of that is so that the foam latex appliance will not shrink. It's going to shrink inevitably, but if it's a full piece and it shrinks, it's not going to fit on the actor or model's face. But if you have it in two separate parts, you'll be able to apply each part and it won't be impossible to put on the actor. So we floated it off, and after that you had to make another mold of the neck piece, and that was for your other sculpture to lay upon. And once you do that, you kind of add flashing, and flashing is what's going to give you a really nice blending edge. It's basically just a flat strip of clay lining the perimeter of the sculpture. You want to stay about 1/4 of an inch to 1/8 of an inch away from the sculpture. And when you make your mold, this is what's going to create that really thin, fine blending edge. And as you can see here, I'm building a mold out of wet clay. Basically just built a wall around the perimeter and kind of filled in with the clay, and you want it to be really smooth. And this is the point where you would add keyholes and all of that jazzy business. And once you built up that wall, you could go ahead and make your negative out of ultracal, basically mixing up some ultracal and filling in where all that clay was and filling in on top of the sculpture, making sure you're super careful to catch all the details. And here we have the molds for my sea monkey. And as you can see, we started running foam latex pretty quickly afterwards. I mean, you know, you're pretty ready to go. We did 3 different foam runs, and pretty much all of my sea monkeys came out really nice, so I was really happy with that. And here I was just sizing up the ears to make sure they looked okay with my creature. And then I began the molding process of the ears as well, which is quite tedious, I can assure you. Now for the painting process, I used a dry brush technique with PAX paint. And PAX paint is just Prozade mixed with acrylic paint, and it's pretty much standard for a lot of special effects, especially foam latex, since you do have to seal it, since it will kind of suck in any kind of paint. But yeah, I just did a dry brush technique where I used a darker olive color and kind of just put it all over the appliance. And then on top I used a lighter kind of green and brushed it over the highest point. So it's essentially highlighting and contouring, but the easy way, because that darker green is going to pick up all the shadows and the lighter green is going to pick up all of the highlights. I did also use some airbrush colors to define my sea monkey, and I used some Endura colors from European Body Art, which were awesome. They're alcohol-based colors. I also used some PPI colors. They were alcohol-based as well. Anything that's alcohol-based is going to stay in place, and it's going to dry quickly, and it's going to be awesome. So I highly recommend alcohol colors for prosthetics. I also used the Alchemy palette from PPI, which is beautiful. and I use it to create kind of a sheen, kind of a metallic glow like a fish scale would have. I did do a couple of hand pieces as well, just some barnacles, and I did make molds of that, just kind of flat molds, which is basically sculpting on a board and then making a mold of that and then using like latex layers or like a little bit of foam latex script over it to make those kind of pieces for the hands. I did make a ball cap as well, which I just stippled latex onto a mannequin head. I also distressed my sailor costume, which I picked up at a local Halloween store, and I really liked how it turned out. I didn't want it to be super like I'm in the Navy, I just got off the boat kind of thing. I wanted it to look like, you know, Mr. Sea Monkey's been hanging out at some ocean bar, you know, hanging out with Ursula or something, I don't know. So I airbrushed a lot of different colors on there, made it look grungy, gross, sweaty, waterlogged, algae ridden, just, you know, kind of nasty and gross. Now it's time for the application process. I started by slicking down Amanda's hair and applying a bald cap. Once I was pretty happy with that bald cap, I decided to kind of pre-fit the top of the appliance to Amanda's face. And then I used a bit of Prozade and applied it to the center of Amanda's face. You always want to start from the center when you're applying a prosthetic because, you know, if you glue down one side, then you glue down the center, and then you glue down the other side, chances are it's going to be crooked. So you want to start in the center and make it as even as you possibly can. At this point, I began to glue down the rest of the prosthetic to her face, and I also went around the edges of the prosthetic to make sure it sat down flat. The worst thing that you can have is like a crinkle in your edge. It just gives away the whole illusion of the prosthetic. So you want to spend a lot of time and energy making sure your edges are smooth as possible. Next, I apply the bottom portion of the prosthetic, much in the same way as I applied the top. I started in the center, laid the prosthetic down, and then kind of worked my way outwards towards the edges, and then blended those edges as well. And you want to blend those edges like you've never blended edges before. Once everything was pretty seamless and smooth, I began filling in with PAX paint, and I just went over my blending edge and I went over kind of the chest where the prosthetic blends down into Amanda's skin, kind of, you know, patted some PAX paint over that and adjusted my paint job to match, and that was it. That was all for my sea monkey. This was a labor of love, and I really like how it turned out. I was really proud of it. Now I'm just itching to make another creature. I don't know when that's gonna happen since it's very expensive, but I do hope you guys enjoyed my process, and I really hope you guys like this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and like it, and I don't know, leave me a comment telling me something. Do you like the color green? Do you like pimento cheese? I don't know, just tell me something. It's fine. Anyway, thanks guys for watching. Take care, and I do plan to have some more videos coming up soon. I've missed you guys so much, you don't even know. So yeah, take care guys. I'll see you later, and bye. Somewhere beyond the sea, somewhere waiting for me, my sea monkey stands on golden sands and watches the ships that go sailing.